Yahya is the director of the Carnegie Middle East Center in Beirut. She joins us now via Skype from the Lebanese capital. And as you join us, I am seeing unconfirmed reports that the IDF is striking inside Lebanon after Hezbollah. Those are unconfirmed reports as things stand at present. But let's just get your assessment to where we stand today, Sunday morning local time, after what was a 5-hour wave of attacks on Israel. This is unprecedented on the part of Tehran.
Good morning, Becky. Thank you for having me with you. We're frankly standing at the edge of a dangerous precipice. We haven't seen such escalation in a very long time, if ever. Definitely the retaliatory attacks by Iran yesterday are a game changer. We're no longer in a shadow or proxy war between those two. It began obviously with the direct attack on the Iranian consulate in Syria, but what happened yesterday really upped the ante even further. So we really are standing on a very dangerous precipice, and much of it depends on how Israel reacts and whether it will carry out a responsive attack, another attack on Iranian territory proper, which effectively means, frankly, dragging the US and almost everyone into an all-out regional conflict. And this is something we've been warning about for the last 6 months.
I mean, the calculation for Israel at this point will be very difficult. I mean, there have been more than 300 projectiles lobbed towards its territory. 99% of those Israel's defense forces, and indeed the Americans say, were defended against. But I mean, 300 plus projectiles for the first time ever at the hands of Iran, thrown at, directed towards Israeli territory is a huge escalation, Maha.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It's a huge escalation. But frankly, I think the Iranians knew that most of this would be stopped, that the US, UK, France, Jordan, and others would help in bringing down those drones and those missiles. Effectively, 99% of them were brought down. Most of that was done outside of Israeli territory, outside of Israeli airspace. So I think, frankly, I saw it more. It was a major escalatory move, but it was very much of a light show. And it's a drop in the bucket of what could really have happened had all the other, I mean, as you saw, most of the drones and the missiles were coming from Iran proper and not from Iran's various partners and proxies in the region. They stayed pretty much out of the game to a certain extent. So this is a drop in the bucket of what could really happen if this was to escalate into an all-out regional war. So yes, it was a major escalation.
Not least on that northern Israeli front, which is the south of Lebanon, a country where you are at present. And we know the sort of firepower that Hezbollah, the Iran-backed militant group on the Lebanese side of the border has. And there are obviously real concerns about an uptick in the conflict spilling much further, because already we have seen that spillage, but spilling further on that northern front. Maha, let me just read you what I've just got into CNN here. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, on the very right wing of this Israeli government coalition. He had this to say just in the past few minutes. As I warned, giving up on Israel's red lines and chasing after Hamas for a deal, and he's talking about a deal in Gaza, of course, only decrease the chances of bringing everyone home. It is time to learn lessons, change direction, move on to Rafah now, and restore full Israeli control all over the Gaza Strip. What do you make of what I have just read? The words of Smotrich there.
This is expected. I mean, I would have expected no less from Smotrich himself. but also from much of the Israeli government. This government has been led with, I mean, we've seen the horrors of Gaza. We're talking 33,000 dead. I don't need to recite the numbers of Gaza. 17,000, more than 17,000 kids orphaned, children orphaned, etc., almost total destruction of the Strip. So I expect no less from someone who's been driving much of this. We're seeing nobody's talking now about what's happening in the West Bank and the pogroms that are going on in the West Bank. So this is to be expected from Smotrich and also probably from other members of this particular government. Quite honestly, they're unhinged in a certain way. They're driving for a military escalation at a time when only a diplomatic solution can walk us back from the precipice of an all-out war across the region. And it's a war that they cannot win, that no one can win. Sorry, let me be clear. It's a war that no one can win. It's a war that will wreak havoc and destruction on everyone concerned, including Israelis and Palestinians and Lebanese and everyone else who gets involved, and Iranians. So what we really need now is for the U.S. to, demonstrate its leverage, which now has become even more difficult, and push back against any kind of Iranian escalation by escalatory moves by Israel per se, to bring the temperature down and start talking about a ceasefire, not only in Gaza, but frankly, it has to be a regional ceasefire. We have a lot of concerns in Lebanon that once they're done with Gaza, they might turn towards Lebanon. Yesterday, by the way, in the midst of all of this, it wasn't covered in the news, there were attacks on Lebanon happening as the drones were flying into Israel, or towards Israel, sorry.
Maha, it's good to have you. You and I have been speaking regularly throughout this past 6 months, and we continue to talk. There will be those who argue that